Thank you for tuning into TTV. I'm your host, Toya, and today is Reflection Friday, where we talk about what reflection is, why is it important, and why do you need to incorporate it in your day-to-day life. So I first want to start out with defining what reflection is, and I did Google this, and when I Googled it says reflection is the consideration of some subject matter, ideal, or purpose. Okay, so the subject matter that we talk about here on this channel and that I'm sharing with you is the reflection of you, your life, who you are, what you've done, where you've come from, where you were, that sort of thing. And one of the reasons that it is important is because it's kind of like the old saying that they said, the older folks always say, if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. If you don't know where you've been, then you're likely to keep repeating it. Okay, if you don't learn those lessons, then it's going to keep coming up, and you're going to keep finding yourselves in those same situations. So when you take time to look back and see what it was you did, what were the lessons that life was teaching you, and you pull those lessons out, you reflect on them and study them and make different choices, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. The reason that we do that reflection is so that we can have that personal growth, because to grow means that's what life is. It's the experiences that we have, and it's the choices that we make. And the more you grow, the closer you come to being who you truly are, your true self. And when you become your true self, you feel more connected to the things and the people that are around you. You feel more connected to life itself. You feel more connected to the creator. You feel more connected to your family, your loved ones, your spouse, your children. And the reason is because you can understand better. So when we look at where we've been and we look at where we are, then we think about where we want to go and what direction that is, then we can kind of help steer ourselves and know what it is that we want to do or need to do to get to where we're trying to go, to become the person that we are trying to become. So if you never take a moment to look back to your past to see where you were, then how can you appreciate where you are right now? Some of us are not the same people we were just a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, before this pandemic. The pandemic changed people. They came out of it different. They understood things that were important to them beforehand are not so important to them now. So it changes. And even before the pandemic, when the pandemic started, you probably weren't the same person you were 5 years previous to that, or 10 years previous to that, or even the same person you were as a child. Things have changed. You have changed. And hopefully you have changed and grown for the better. And if not, it's okay. That's why you here watching this show. That's why you here watching this channel, right? It's so that you can be better and do better and get to someplace better than where you are right now and handle the situations that life brings up to you. So when we reflect, we sit back, and that's what we do. We look back. We appreciate. Okay, because gratitude is one of the most important things that you can have and express and feel in your life. And it's not something you do just because somebody says it. You really sit down and truly get to being grateful. And it's not, if you sit down and you grateful and you start naming and think about the things in life that you're grateful for and you can't cry, it doesn't bring tears to your eyes. You need to keep going and keep doing. Because when you get to the point where you reflect on the things in your life and you become so overwhelmed with the feeling of love, with the feeling of just gratefulness, like I can't explain it any other way. You're so happy and just so overwhelmed by the feeling of it. It brings you to tears, and it's happy tears, good tears. Okay, so it's not anything to be ashamed of or hide from. They're good tears because it feels good to be so appreciative of where you are in life. So I know bad things happen to us, and we tend to put a lot of focus on those negative, bad experiences. But when you do that, you're putting energy into that. And so it's good to reflect on it, see what happens, see what you can do differently. But as my mentor said, those events are just that. They're just events that happen in your life. They don't define who you are. They don't define where you're going to be in life or who you are as a person. It's just something that you went through, something you experienced, something that happened. That's it. And when you get to the point where you can understand that that was something that happened and you learn from it, okay, you learn from it, no matter how traumatic it is, learn from it. then you can move on. Because as long as you're still settling on those, and as long as those events are major traumas that happen in your life, you're never going to be able to let it go and move on. And trust me, I know from experience. Okay, I'm not speaking just because I'm saying this. I know from experience. So for myself, as most women out here have been, which is really sad to say, where most women, majority of women, I would say, I don't know what the exact statistics are, but I would say probably 1 out of every 3 women have had some kind of sexual assault done to them. And I'm no different. And when I think back on that situation and I think back on it, it's just an event. It's just something that happened. It's not something that's going to define me or control where I've been or where I'm going. It's just something that happened. And what I learned from that event is I learned that if I had stopped and listened to those feelings that I had, I never would have been in that situation to begin with. And it's not that I'm putting blame on myself or saying it's my fault. I'm saying that there were warnings that I had before I even was in that situation. There was a gut feeling that I had, something that was telling me, don't go, don't go. And of course, like most people at that time, I ignored it. I didn't listen to it. And I continued on and I went and ended up in a situation. So regardless of what it is, go back to it, look at it, and look at it, pull out the emotion of it, pull out the feelings out of it, remove that, and look at it from an intellectual perspective. What happened? What do I need to learn from this? How could this have been prevented? Like, what was my part in it? Because if you feel something happened and it was nothing was your fault, there are situations where, yeah, you might be right. None of it was your fault. But most of the time, we have some accountability that we have to put into it. Like I said, even in my own situation, I had something inside telling me, don't go, don't do it, don't. And I'm like, I'm going to go anyway. And that's how I ended up in my situation. So, but that's why we go back and we look and reflect over the things that have happened. Because, again, you are not the same person you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a month ago. Okay, so we constantly change, and we need to reflect on those changes and actually reflect on where it is that we want to go, so we know what lesson, how to take those lessons that we learned in life and apply them to our present and to our future. All right, so that is all I have for you guys today. I love you, and I will talk to you tomorrow.